take 2 minutes to crack a show.
Okay. Well, while we're waiting for Robert to change the reel, allow me to give a brief plug for 3 remarkably good books written by me. Smoking, Class, and the Legitimation of Power. It's all about how the authorities and why the authorities are trying to ban smoking. War and the National Interest, Arguments for a British Foreign Policy. Neither Brussels nor Washington for a sovereign British state. And Cultural Revolution, Culture War, The True Battle for Britain. These are on sale outside at the Libertarian Alliance stall at remarkably low price of £10 each.
That was lovely, John. Would you go through it one more time with the camera?
Sorry, it was on my one.
Oh, I have to get it from you.
Okay, can I start?
Well, thank you. You're ready? Yes? Lovely. Okay. Well, thank you for that. So, I suppose I ought to introduce you formally. So you know who it is. Sean Gabb is Director of Communications for the Libertarian Alliance. I have some given 5 books, but you only brought 3 today. So and you may well have seen Sean on TV and radio has broadcast on UK and abroad. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Roger Helmer has spoken with enormous eloquence and authority against the European Constitution and what this means for our civil rights. I think all I really have to add explicitly on the European Constitution is that yes, it does give unelected authorities outside this country a great deal of power over what crimes exist in this country, how they're to be punished, and over the criminal procedure used for punishing them. And that, as far as I'm concerned, is in itself a decisive argument against adopting the European Constitution. Another argument against the European Constitution on a civil libertarian ground, rather than the others, is that I have read large parts of the European Constitution. I don't claim to read it all, but I'm not sure those who signed it want to read it. And I don't actually understand very much of it. Now, wherever you have legal ambiguity, wherever you have documents which do not mean anything, you give a green light to any authority to oppress it. Now that is another decisive argument against the European Constitution on a civil libertarian point of view. However, what I really want to talk about is
Get on the mic, yeah.
what I really want to talk about is the danger that we are facing in general to our civil liberties. Let me tell you this. If the European Constitution were to be voted against unanimously by all 25 member states and it fell, in going further, if this country tomorrow were to withdraw from the European Union, that would not eliminate the threat that we face to our civil liberties in this country today. The European Constitution and the European Union and its various institutions are being used to justify an assault on our fundamental historic liberties. It does not motivate that attack. We need to look at the class issue involved in the attack on our civil liberties. We face a ruling class which wants, for various reasons, to turn us into a nation of slaves. And just for the record, let me explain what I mean by the ruling class. I'm not talking about capitalists in black silk hats or landowners with corvettes and nice horse-drawn carriages. I'm talking about various collections of politicians, bureaucrats, educators, lawyers, media people, and associated business interests, which draw wealth, status, and power from an enlarged and activist state. These people have been gradually stripping us of our freedoms throughout the past 50, maybe 60 years. They use the European Union as an excuse to do what they want with us. They are fighting a cultural war against the people of this country. They are changing the ground on which we stand. In the past 30 years, these people have decimalised the currency. They have metricated the weights and measurements. They have changed and rechanged the county boundaries. They have changed all the forms and names of our civil procedure. A plaintiff is now a claimant. An affidavit is now a statement of truth. A bailiff is now an enforcement officer. A writ is now a claim form. You may regard these as relatively unimportant changes. Maybe individually they are. Their overall effect is to abolish the past. It turns the past into a foreign country. I may belong to the last generation in this country which can take up and read a book published before about 1960 and not need a massive footnote to explain common allusions. This is part of the cultural attack on this country. Now, because we do not have a written constitution, because we have an organic, unwritten constitution, the defence of liberty in this country is based not on explicit wording of the law, as it is in America and in some other countries. It is part of a web of associations. Liberty exists within that web of associations. Disrupt the web, start ripping out individual strands of it, and it becomes possible to do all sorts of terrible things that even 30, even 25 years ago would have been thought incredible. Last Monday, we lost our privilege against double jeopardy. The courts are also now able to accept hearsay evidence. That would not have been possible 25 years ago, but now so many other strands in that web of associations have been ripped out that this can be portrayed as just one more modernisation of our legal system. Now that is the attack we face from the ruling class in this country. Europe is an important part of that attack. They use the fig leaf of Europe to cover their oppressions. When they decided to metricate the weights and measures, did we have an informed democratic debate in this country? No, we did not. There was a European directive made in 1989. The Conservative government brought this into force under a statutory instrument in 1995. A Labour government imposed this on us on the 1st of January 2000. We were never asked, do you want to go up to the pound, the inch, the foot, the pint? We were never asked that. We were simply told, this is part of our obligation as good Europeans. There was no debate. And if the government abolishes trial by jury in contextual cases, doubtless this will be sold to us in the name of harmonisation. Harmonisation of legal procedure is a very useful means of stripping us of our common law protections. And so, yes, we must make sure that this European Constitution is never ratified. Yes, perhaps we should seriously reconsider our membership of the European Union as a whole. All right, let's talk straight. We need to leave the European Union. However, you must always bear in mind that the European Union is an excuse for oppression. It does not motivate the oppression. If we left the European Union tomorrow, our ruling class, which you could call the enemy class, would simply find another set of justifications. For years, we've been told we must have identity cards, it is part of harmonisation within Europe. Well, we're now having identity cards because it's part of this very convenient war on terror. They can move from one justification to another. Take Europe away, we have a war on terror. We have the multicultural revolution. There are any number of other excuses out there that the authorities will use to take away our liberty. So yes, we must stop the European Constitution. Yes, we must perhaps leave the European Union. But do not for one moment assume that that is the end of the problem. The problem is here in this country. We need to make sure that our ruling class is not able to do this to us again. And so, in conclusion, I want to be rather pressing. The European Constitution, I really don't believe, will ever be ratified. Somewhere or another, within the 25 member states, it will be rejected. Sooner or later, this country will leave the European Union. But that is not victory. That is winning a skirmish in a much wider battle, which is the true battle for Britain.